I'm going to pull the video up here. So the video that we're watching, so while I'm pulling this up, if you want to review in your handouts, slides 25 through 27, just around the teapot and leap physical environment indicators, because then we'll talk about that in terms of this preschool environment and what you see.
So what do you want us to review again? I didn't hear you.
So if you look back, Lisa went over,
Page
so
9,
slides 25 through 27.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about those teapot environmental indicators.
Did everybody find those? And if I had a chance to. I thought that was funny as they were videotaping it. Cracks me up. But so what were the indicators you observed in that area? Seemed pretty separate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, separate areas.
They had enough materials at each one of the centers to kind of support the number of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was prepared. The kids weren't there yet, but everything was set up. And
Okay. What else?
There was the sign near the computer, my turn next, to kind of prioritize, because typically the kids definitely want to get on computers, and so usually we'll have to use a timer.
Right.
But then it's nice that the kids can go up and practice name writing while they're signing their name to have their turn for the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did seem like there was organization there, so kids knew expectations.
Mm-hmm. I thought of you, Candace, because of the books. The books when they see displayed in the book there.
Lots of visuals, visuals with pictures and also with words.
Mm-hmm.
The space was arranged so that down and you could definitely see the books were.
And it seemed like there was plenty of space
For
each of the
crowded,
areas,
really.
right? Compared to some of that we saw earlier. Okay. So this I think I forgot to mention when we started, but that was a preschool. It's a school district preschool in Colorado. So
I think my only thing was just one of those shelves had a lot on top of it, and I don't know if it necessarily was for children learning. It just looked like it was paper stacked on top.
Gotcha.
And then one shelf looked like maybe there were some puppets up top, and I just was wondering in terms of, you know, children being able to reach whatever was on top and that whole thing.
right. So now we're gonna shift and talk a little bit about the outdoor environment, and what are our expectations for the outdoor environment. So as Lisa was mentioning earlier, we always want to be sure that teachers have an unobstructed view of the children at all times. We want to show visual reminders of the behavior expectations. We want to define the extra space, so large group planned activities, maybe in the sand, water play, wheel toys, garden, playing games, pretend play. So, you know, how have we defined our outdoor space to support each of those? Create very easy to follow traffic patterns. So to and from the classroom, where the tricycles go, around the play structures. I was at a school last week on the preschool playground, and they had this nice round piece of asphalt. It had some equipment in the middle, but they used it to ride the tricycles around, and so they had that all very clearly marked, and the kids were doing their laps around there. And then just having those equipment areas. So where are we keeping the buckets and the shovel for sand play? Do we have large art area out there, dramatic play? So here is an example of how we might do outside lineup. You can see the red line up there being the visual cue to assist the children where to stand in line and where to stop. So maybe we use some themes to promote engagement for kids. So selecting themes that reflect the children's interests and abilities, and we introduce and discuss the themes during large group activities. Creatively incorporate and embed themes into play areas, so both inside and outside, just choosing a theme to design everything around. Bring materials related to the theme into the learning environment, plan complementary activities and experiences based on themes. So that is what I always think about when we think about things like this. You know, one of the things that I used to hear a lot when I was a building leader is teachers say, well, we've just sucked all the fun out of learning. Well, I always said, right, but nobody said that you couldn't do still themes. And that was always a fourth grade teacher who said that to me. But, I mean, you could still do themes and plan things. Just because we're teaching the standards and doing, it's still just thinking about how do you bring that in. So here's an example of ocean and how they've brought that into each of the areas within the classroom. What do you notice there? Do you think that would keep kids engaged? So as you're thinking about themes and bringing materials, or as we're out observing in classrooms and helping, you know, we have some kids who are struggling and we're trying to support and help. Some questions to ask yourself, and find this on handout 7.3. So are the materials interesting and inviting? Are the materials appropriate for a range of developmental levels? Do we have materials that challenge students to think and explore? Or do the materials help a child to to achieve developmental goals? Is there a system in place for entering and exiting centers? And are there plenty of choices for all children? So that's one thing that you just don't, I mean, when we think about centers again, and not to get off on my kindergarten tangent again, but in kindergarten and first grade, even through second, centers are still a pretty effective way to keep kids engaged and still be able to, I mean, I think about it as the centers often are providing students with that independent piece, and then allows the teacher to work with the other kids that might need some extra support. So really, when you talk about reaching those kids, that whole developmental range. Okay, so this is a picture of circle time, or a circle area. What are your thoughts about how this could be improved?
Structure the seating, so like, how do kids know where they're supposed to go, and
Right.
Are we looking at the front? I mean, is that the teacher-led area where the frog is?
Yeah, that's a great question. Part
I
of
mean,
what,
Yeah,
yeah.
going back to where kids should sit and align themselves and focus. I don't know I wouldn't know where to sit.
and with the mats, like, I don't
Yeah.
understand the mats where they're at.
Yeah, so like a clearly designed area for where the teacher's gonna be. Yeah, because that looks like a blackboard back there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or smart something, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a blackboard, I can't tell, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I heard you say, you know, clearly define the seating for the children, but then also clearly define where's the teacher at, how are we using the spaces?
What happens when they're there? I mean, I know there's stuff on the right, but what
Yeah,
happens?
and does the teacher have her materials that she's accessing set up, so that when she's doing circle time, it's all right there, whether it's reading a book or whatever.
Yes, so what they say, so you guys are all right on cues for where the children should sit. So you can do that in various ways. Poster boards for each activity within group time, with visual displays, props and materials. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any books, anything in there. And name cards or job system for picking children for jobs. So when we think about, so here's a great example of defining space and barriers. So it looks like every child painted a picture, and then their name is on there, and it's all spread out so they know exactly where to sit when they go to the carpet. And such a simple thing to do that I think sometimes we forget about. Or what I see a lot is like, only you can go in and look at a carpet and know who are the kids that struggle with where they sit, because they're the only ones with their name in the circle. So then that's, you know, not very equitable, because everyone should just have a space. And points out what the other kids might already know.
And within class, they're really looking for children to be able to choose their space. But they need to know like what choices they have, but they really want kids to be able to choose where they're sitting.
Right, so I'm even looking at that like perhaps it's initial, just that initial support,
Right.
but then hopefully as you move along in the
Right.
year, they have an understanding of choosing a space and what space means in terms of, you know, my legs and my hands, and it's not, okay, my friends, so.
Some large group activity schedules. You can see some different, there's greeting, rules, songs, and so just a lot of nice cues that you can use. And you see that it's just on a flip chart, so you can just flip up whatever you need. So next we're gonna see a video of circle time, and so these are the questions that we'll think about as we watch the video. And the next slide have this, but if you could pull this up in your handout, so as we're going through the video, you can watch this. So as we've talked about those strategies to keep kids engaged in circle time, so we want you to watch this video and see, are they keeping their kids engaged during circle time? No, like,
Read it little. Read it little fishes. Really fun. You know what I have for you? Can you give everybody there? Yeah, please. Give everybody a fish. Now let's think. If Laura hands you something, there are some words you could say to her. Yeah.
Next time, can I do that?
Yes, everybody will get a turn. That's why we have our helper chart. So we all get a turn. Okay, that should be enough. Eden said thank you. Oh, let's see. We can practice swimming. Whoopsies. A lot of friends are saying thank you. That's so kind to say to your friends. And then is there enough for you? I'll take one if there's an extra. What do your words want to say? Sure, you can. My fishy's missing its tail. That's okay. That's okay. And Laura, would you like to sit down to sing, or would you like to stand next to me? Okay, here we go. 3 little fishies swimming in the sea, teasing Mr. Shark. You can't catch me, no, you can't catch me. And he snapped that fishy right out of that sea. There's only 2. Ready, friends? 2 little fishies swimming in the sea, teasing Mr. Shark. You can't catch me, no, you can't catch me. And he snapped that fishy right out of that sea. There's only 1 left. Oh, I bet he's lonely. 1 lonely fish swimming in the sea, teasing Mr. Shark. You can't catch me, no, you can't catch me. That fishy right out of that sea. Laura's showing us how many left. 0 left. Silly shark. Would you like to collect them?
so back to our questions. It's so fun to see those videos with our classes. So these questions, are the children engaged? Some of them, did I hear you say some? Okay. What tells you that they were or were not engaged?
They were responding to the questions.
Doing the physical movements.
So what was the teacher's behavior like during the clip? What was she doing that was engaging for the kids?
Using different voices or different volumes of it.
Modeling.
Right, she also had a fish too.
And then what strategies would you suggest to help the teacher? So, because I heard some of you say some of the kids were engaged, so what strategies would you suggest she use? Maybe differently or something in addition to make sure all of the kids were engaged.
If she knew the students to anticipate who and what, they tended to get, unengaged, maybe proximity, pairing them with peer model.
Arranging them differently so she could interact with them more.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe having them all sit in a circle would have been more effective versus rows. And I also noticed too, like the two boys were in the back, so I just.
Yeah, that's what I
Those
meant
were the
by
ones
bringing
not
them
really.
closer.
Right.
Yeah, or maybe the teacher moving from in front, if that's where the kids all chose to sit, and she sat in back by the boys or something.
So like being a student to lead the song while she
Right.
side by side with kids who wanted.
Yeah.
Or for each verse, another student lead them.
Oh yeah, that's
So it's
okay.
student led and stuff.
Right. Great suggestions. So when we just think about then small group activities, and the importance of small group activities, of course, are for skill building, giving kids individualized attention, and then to plan and implement small group activities, we have to think about the goal and if it's clear or not, using peers as models, ensuring participation by all the children, making them fun, of course, and then providing feedback throughout. Any questions about that information? No? Our next activity, and so we can decide how we want to do this. So the next activity was for you all to design an ideal learning environment. And I was thinking to have you just go down and use the materials in the IRC, the construction paper, things down there, scissors, tape, I know they have a lot down there that you could use, and maybe just, there's 6 of you, pair up, and just take 10 to 15 minutes to design your ideal learning environment. If cost were no option, what would your ideal classroom look like? Early ed, we'll just say early ed classroom. So, do you have any questions about that? How does that sound? Get you up and moving in a different space, take a break, and then we'll come back. So let's come back around, we give you a break in 10:25, 10:30, what do you think? 10:30? Okay. All right, and then we'll finish up, since we're going to do the break in conjunction with this activity, then when you come back, we'll finish up this session.